So I have an important update involving the California ammunition restriction case, Rhode v. Bonta. So let's talk about this. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you think California's ammunition restrictions are clearly unconstitutional, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also want to give a shout out to one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee has amazing coffee and they are huge Second Amendment supporters. They have dedicated roasts for organizations like FBC and GOA, and if you buy those roasts, some of those proceeds go directly to those organizations so they can file lawsuits. So again, amazing coffee, huge Second Amendment supporters, and if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you can get 10% off of your order. So like I said in the intro, in this video, I have an update for you in the California ammunition restriction case, Rhode v. Bonta. Rhode v. Bonta is one of those California cases that gun owners have been anticipating and waiting for a really long time. It's one of those cases that I get asked about pretty much every single day. And recently there was a hearing before Judge Benitez, and a lot of you guys have been sending me comments asking what happened. And out of that hearing, we received some additional information that we need to cover, and I think some of you guys should have that information just so you know what's going on. Now, if you're not aware, Rhode v. Bonta is a case which deals with the state of California's restrictions on the purchase of ammunition and the background check system that they put in place for someone to come into possession of ammunition. This law was passed through Proposition 63, which requires purchasers of ammunition to undergo one of two background check systems. They call it the basic eligibility check or the standard eligibility check, but essentially it's just a background check that you have to go through whenever you purchase ammunition. This law in California also restricts the ability for someone to be able to purchase ammunition online, go to maybe an online dealer, and then have that ammunition sent directly to their home. So those are the ammunition restrictions which are being challenged in the Rhode v. Bonta case. Judge Roger T. Benitez originally reviewed this case and utilized a version of text as informed by history and tradition, and that was in his original granting of a motion for preliminary injunction. Now, after that original decision on the motion for preliminary injunction, of course, the state of California decided to appeal that up to the Ninth Circuit. This case, Rhode, then sat at the Ninth Circuit level for a while. It actually went to oral arguments before a 3-judge panel. But then after the Supreme Court issued their New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin decision, Rhode, along with a bunch of other 2A cases that were in the Ninth Circuit, were sent back down to the lower courts to be reconsidered in light of Bruin. Then in December, a conference was held before Judge Benitez in all of these cases, including Rhode. Judge Benitez requested additional spreadsheets and historical evidence, and he requested that those be submitted to him and the court so that he could decide what he needed to do in these cases. But essentially since February, most of these cases have pretty much been silent. Then recently, out of nowhere, Judge Benitez scheduled a consolidated hearing in the Rhode case, and that happened this last Monday on the 17th. And out of that hearing, we got some additional information. The minute entry of the hearing states that within 30 days of today, plaintiffs shall issue a declaration regarding their Article 3 standing. Within 30 days of today, defendants shall name and file an expert report or declaration regarding the American history and tradition of background checks. Within 15 days thereafter, plaintiffs shall decide whether to depose said expert, and within 30 days after deciding, plaintiffs shall file a brief or expert declaration in response. Additionally, within 30 days of today, defendant shall file an updated declaration regarding ammunition purchaser background check acceptance/rejection rates and processing times as performed previously. Additionally, within 30 days of today, defendant shall report to the extent ascertainable on persons described in previous declarations as persons who underwent background checks and were identified as prohibited persons, and indicate whether such persons were prosecuted and whether firearms were located and seized from such persons. So you may be looking at that and say, okay, what does that all mean? It's just a wall of text. Well, in simplest terms, this all boils down to at least 75 days more of waiting for anything significant to happen in the Rhode case. Judge Benitez is giving both sides additional time to submit additional evidence and kind of shore up some of the questions that he has in regards to standing for the plaintiffs, some expert testimony and declarations, and just clearing up some of the questions that he had at that hearing. And then also really interesting at the bottom there, he mentions that the state of California must submit any evidence that they potentially have that maybe prohibited people went through the background check system, were flagged, and then maybe the state of California did anything to actually go after those people. Because if there's a background check, it's flagging people and they're not doing anything, then really what's the purpose of this law? Now, some of you may be interested in what happened at the hearing. What did Judge Benitez said? And shout out to Costas Morris over on Twitter. He's one of the CRPA attorneys. He did a summary after the hearing. And if you want to see more information like this, go follow him over on Twitter because he gave us a summary of what happened during that hearing. He wrote in his tweet that Benitez repeatedly questioned the DOJ's attorneys on why they think old racist laws are relevant to the modern ammunition background check. They said that while they don't endorse the racism, the laws stand for the proposition that there is a tradition of barring people perceived to be dangerous from owning guns. Benitez seemed unsatisfied with this answer. And again, that's really interesting because this is something that we all criticized California for doing when they originally submitted those racist laws in their spreadsheet. We were all very skeptical and we criticized them for putting forward that type of historical support. And it seems that Judge Benitez is also hypercritical of the state of California trying to use racist laws as support for their ammunition background check system and these ammunition restrictions. The tweet goes on to say that Benitez was also unimpressed with the state's insistence on submitting expert declarations. He says he's not sure why their historians can better explain a historical law with a clear meaning, like the racist laws. The state submitted hundreds of laws in its survey, and he's skeptical there are more to find. Nevertheless, he gave them a month to submit expert declarations, perhaps to avoid Ninth Circuit kicking it back down to him again. Again, this is something we mentioned where a lot of people have been asking why in December did he give them additional time to submit these spreadsheets? Why now are they potentially giving him more time? And it's because the state of California has signaled multiple times in their briefings that they on appeal will try to raise that there were some sort of procedural issues with the decision by Judge Benitez. So here Judge Benitez is just trying to shore up as many of the holes as he can because he knows this decision is going to be appealed. Also, apparently standing was a big issue during the hearing, and Judge Benitez talked a lot about standing, and the state of California is challenging that the individual plaintiffs have standing to bring this lawsuit. And then Costas mentioned that there was this interesting interaction with Judge Benitez where apparently that was a big issue for Judge Benitez, and he talked about how he used to go bird hunting in Arizona and would often buy extra ammunition while he was there. And if he didn't shoot those shells, then he would decide to bring back the remainder back with him. And essentially, would the state of California expect him to drive to a California gun store upon his return and do a background check on that ammunition? And at this point, it's stated that Costas actually corrected Judge Benitez and said that if he crossed the state borders with that ammunition that he bought in Arizona, he'd actually be breaking the law. He'd actually have to ship that ammunition from Arizona to California, to a California FFL, and then pick it up from that FFL and go through the process. And apparently that fact and that reality made Judge Benitez even more upset and even more skeptical of this law that's being put in place in California. It's also stated that Benitez implied he'd be okay with a background check as originally envisioned by Proposition 63, the version in which you'd get a permit card, it'd be renewable every 5 years, and then you would use that to buy ammunition. It stated that he believes Bruin's footnote 9 would allow that type of scheme, but that's not what actually California implemented. They went back, changed the law, and made it something that would not be as straightforward as something like an objective test that's even mentioned in Bruin. So those were some of the important takeaways from the hearing according to Costas. Again, go follow him over on Twitter if you want more information. Per usual, it appears that Judge Benitez was very fair to both of the sides, both to the Pro 2A side, to CRPA, and the state of California. But really what this amounts to for the average resident, the average gun owner in California, is that this is going to take some time, and it's going to be at least until October that we get any significant movement in this case. But if anything changes, if anything develops in this case, I will let you all know. Also, if you like this video and you'd like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. As always, I want to thank everybody who likes, comments, subscribes, who hits the notification bell, who shares these videos. You guys are directly impacting these videos, impacting this channel, and helping me to reach and educate more people than I could ever do on my own. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.